Very, very happy to see some of the old participants. Welcome, everyone.
Great to be here, Inderjeet. Thank you.
All right, I think it's a good thing to start now, and people can keep joining us. I'm going to invite Garima to start.
Hello, everyone. Very warm welcome to all Gromo coaches to this open house session on opportunities for coaching in the current scenario. For this session, we are delighted to welcome all of you and also our 3 Gromo coaches who are with us as facilitators and hosts here and who are actively working in the coaching space. So firstly, I would like to welcome Daya Makwana. So Daya is an HR professional with 20 plus years of experience in engineering, ITES and IT industry. After Gromo certification 2 years back, she has been an internal coach to various corporations, coached both national and international clients. And she believes in continuous learning and practicing a lot. She is a total experiential learner. So welcome, Daya.
And Thank you, Garu.
Yes. And next, I welcome Sandeep Jain, our coach who is finance professional by qualification with diverse experience in finance and business leadership roles in multiple geographies across Asia Pacific. And he has worked in various industry segments from FMCG, media, pharmaceuticals, and lifestyle products. He is a Gromo coach, a Marshall Goldsmith certified coach, and ACC. And he mostly worked with corporates for CXOs, family business owners, and some first generation entrepreneurs as well. He is a lifelong learner as well. His current passions are digital marketing, business analytics, innovation, design thinking, and Sandeep runs marathon and is a yoga enthusiast as well. And I just can go on and on. Sandeep has a long list of interest and things that he do. So welcome to Sandeep.
Welcome, Sandeep.
Thank you. Thanks, Garima. Yeah, thanks.
So next, I welcome Ramakrishnan to this our open house. So Ram is our coach for, I believe, 3 years, and he has an engineering and marketing background, has been working in corporate space for more than 25 years, and he has worked in companies like Chicago, Pneumatic, Tech Mahindra, Cape Gemini, and Atos Central. And he's ACC coach. He logs more than 100 coaching hours every year. And his coaching clients include students, individuals, business owners, and corporate executives.
So welcome, Ram.
Thank you so much, Garima. Thank you, Inderjeet.
Welcome.
Next, we come to Inderjeet. And guys, he needs no introduction because he has been your mentor since you joined Gromo coach program. He is an MCC and a Marshall Goldsmith certified coach. So welcome all of you.
Thank you, Garima. And I think it's a great panel we have here. And this thought came from just we were having conversation one day, me and Garima were just discussing. And, we realized like, what is it that we can add? What more value we can add to our coaches? And then we realized that what better than, trying to bring them some more learnings vis-a-vis current situation and how coaching can make a difference in the current situation. And obviously, when we looked back, we found that we have many good coaches, experienced coaches who are already successful, who are already working in this space. And while I have always been sharing my insights, I thought it's a good idea to bring in some more experienced coaches who could also share their practical insights of having worked in the industry after getting certified. So we have some great set of questions which we intend to discuss today, basically. And I would like to start with the first question here, which will be more open to all of us. So we all 4 of us will try and answer this question. So my first question is, Sandeep, how have your coaching engagements been pre-COVID and post-COVID?
So far, so good. I think I've been fortunate. Most of my coaching engagements actually moved to the virtual platform. Coaches were excited with the virtual platform as they were with the physical face-to-face meetings. So all of them have continued. There's certainly one engagement which I had to discontinue because the coachee, who's a CFO of mid-sized organization, had some other priorities and, done 4 sessions, and he decided to postpone 2 sessions. And on the positive side, actually, I've also picked up 2 new engagements. So all in all, not too bad, I would say.
Okay, that's really good to know. And let me ask Ram. Ram, how have you been?
I would say I've not been as fortunate as Sandeep.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
most of my ongoing clients have been in the small and medium business segment,
Mhm.
and that's been seriously affected. And a lot of them have manufacturing or services which have been seriously affected by COVID. So
Mhm.
the businesses, in fact, most of them have not even restarted
Okay.
even after the lockdowns have been eased.
Sure.
So that part of the work that I was doing was of course completely stopped. But there have been others which have continued. Some executive coaching engagements continue. Some individual coaching which I had reduced consciously. I have started approaching. I've started opening up to that as well. So yeah, I would say COVID definitely has had an impact on what I was doing. Yeah.
Sure. So, see, my habit is to try and pick up silver lining, right? What's the silver lining in the cloud? So you said that you've started consciously picking up single engagements, which you had consciously stopped doing, right?
Right.
So are you saying that before COVID, there was a lot of work and you had to decide to give up some of the work and consciously select certain kind of clients?
It was
Is that what
it was not about having too much work or otherwise. It's about having a focus on what your target segment is, because my experience has been selling coaching services is not easy. Okay, it's
Okay.
not easily understood by most businesses unless they have already implemented coaching in the past.
Sure.
It's a long process. It requires a lot of follow-up, requires a lot of preparation from your side, multiple stakeholders to be met before we reach a stage of decision making, and not that every process leads to a positive decision being taken. So
Sure.
it's always important, which I felt, that while coaching can be applied to many areas of life, it's
Mhm.
always better to focus on that 1 or 2
Mhm.
niche segments which appeals to me, appeals to us, and
Sure.
where we think our profile will also make a significant difference. So with that in mind, I had consciously decided business coaching and executive coaching to be the niches that I would be working in.
Sure.
But individuals do come off and on. Not that I
Sure.
promote myself in that space, but they do come off and on. And I've been consciously not spending too much time in doing that, which I have
Started
probably
doing.
doing
Yeah.
now.
Whatever you said about how you approach the client and how much time does it take, I'm also,
Right.
for the sake of classes learning or the groups learning here, I am assuming this is more like medium or small organizations where you try to pitch in business coaching. Am I correct?
That's right. So
Thank you.
coaching allied with some other associated services, which
Sure.
also add value.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to move over to Daya, but I'm going to ask her a different question because Daya is not an external coach. She's an in-company coach. And it is a good mix of panelists we have today because the intent is to have a view from both sides of the table. So as an external coach, when you pitch in, it's good to know what the other side is thinking and how things are on the other side, right? And some of us here in this group are internal coaches. Many of us are external coaches. Many of us are starting to be coaches. I'm sure this conversation would add a lot of value. So we have very consciously and deliberately chosen the panelists with an intent to give a broader perspective on how things are as of today. So there, how are organizations viewing coaching in the current times?
Thanks, Inderjeet, for this opportunity to be your co-panelist. Really appreciate. I'm the regional head for TomTom and at the India region for people function. And yes, I have done Gromo coaching with you, and the entire India L&D function is with me also. Talent management function is with me also.
Okay.
So I happen to sit at the other side of the table.
Yes.
While deciding on the coaching practices. I think coaching is on. It's for critical operations that we have kept it. So we have not closed the doors. External coaching going on at executive level. There is external coaching going on at mid leadership level. So mid leadership near to the senior management, but mid leadership. So yes, it's going on, but I would say it is going on at a full fledged, like it was in a normal circumstances, or it would have been in a normal circumstances. I had to cancel few planned interventions, but I continued with few. So we had to use the discretion to keep only the critical ones, which are important for the impact at this point of time.
Sure. Thank you so much. And Sandeep and Ram, this question is for you also. If there is anything you want to add to this, like how are organizations responding to the times? Are they still open to coaching or are they canceling? Like Sandeep, you have already mentioned that you still do going good with your clients, barring one client. Any new thought or anything addition to this you want to add, Sandeep and Ram?
My perspective on this is that obviously the market because of COVID has become difficult. We have to agree with that. Some of these conversations for which materialized have also been because, the discussions had been on for a while. And they thought that this is a good time to bring in new thinking, new thought, get the coachee to think differently. Because most businesses need to adjust to the new reality. I personally think that while on one hand, there should be huge demand for coaching because this is the time that, companies need to be with their employees as far as emotional intelligence is concerned, empathy is concerned, holding them together, giving them all the support. But I clearly also realize that I think finances are becoming a bit of issue and companies are trying to kind of cut corners on L&D and also, on coaching. I would say we still have to see how this will sit, and it also depends how long this situation continues. My hope and my expectation is that maybe after 6-8 months, we should start getting back to close to normal actually. And in fact, I'm actually seeing this as a bit of an opportunity because what has happened is that more and more organizations have realized, and they would probably vouch for that L&D and coaching can be very effectively delivered online. And I think in the end, that is going to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of the deployment of the L&D and the coaching budgets. And hopefully it may mean some pressure on our pricing, but it should mean that there would be more opportunities coming. That's the way I look at it. I could be wrong. Happy to hear from Ram and Daya.
So I think that's an interesting perspective. And I'd like to rephrase or shift my question a bit and ask, like, what is your understanding, Ram and Daya? What's your prediction for short term in terms of coaching and also vis-a-vis the online thing, the effectiveness of the online thing, online coaching, doing coaching online, basically. So Ram?
So I think being dependent on things changing is something I wouldn't want to do because we don't know, right? So yes, there has been an impact, and most organizations I speak to, and even otherwise, we know that coaching continues to be part of the discretionary budget of L&D. There are if you categorize the budget spend, this comes under the discretionary spend in most organizations. There are some who feel this is priority for them, but otherwise coaching comes under discretionary spend, and most organizations have reduced their budget, and especially the discretionary fund is no longer available until there are 10 levels of approvals that need to happen. So that has been the case. But as Sandeep says, I concur with him that there is an opportunity. The situation that we are in has forced some organizations to go online with not only the training and the learning part, but even from their normal business. So that's an opportunity which slowly will start opening up very soon, because like businesses have to come back to normal and start doing what they were doing, even learning activities have to come back to normal. Now it could be 1 week, it could be 6 months. What's the point in thinking about it? I think this is the time when we have to keep engaging, keep use this opportunity to improve myself, and that's what I keep telling people whom I speak to. Keep improving self, keep practicing, and keep engaging with organizations to say this is available, and now this is also available in an online mode, which is equally effective. And I'm sure at some stage things will start becoming better. So life is good, as Marshall says, life is good. Yeah.
Okay, so there, my question is a little more specific for you. From an organization perspective, how do you see the effectiveness of coaching delivered in person versus online?
Okay, so I don't see any difference. We have moved to the online mode, and with the kind of tools that are available, you can do the breakout sessions even by using tools. And I have seen them working out very effectively. So I don't see, in fact, people coming back saying that, oh, it's not one-to-one, it's not face-to-face. I haven't heard anyone saying that. So it's equally effective. No impact on that front. I think I would put one more point, if you allow me, to the question, though you tailored it for me, but if you allow.
Sure.
So yes, I think right now organizations though are cutting off on a lot of initiatives, but see, the top talent has to keep growing. Otherwise, even during this time, hiring is happening. So we will continue to invest in our top talent and in coaching, reskilling. Also, we are using a lot of coaching for reskilling and repurposing people, because COVID has brought in so many business changes which were unprecedented. So we are using coaching to reskill and repurpose people, tap on potential, and take them to the next level.
Okay. Wow, that's really an interesting perspective. That's really good to know. Before I proceed, so I would like to mention to all our coaches here that today's panel, we are probably all our questions and the kind of panelists we have is we are addressing more corporate coaching, executive coaching, or in-company coaching kind of a situation. Probably in next 1 or 2 weeks, we'll come out with another such session where we'll talk on the life coaching aspect of coaching as well, where we'll have different group of panelists and see what is happening on that front. So if someone is wondering in the audience, wondering what's going on in the life coaching space, so stay put, that would come. And please take your learnings from today, whatever they can be for you. So I'll move over to Sandeep in this case and ask him, like, what do you think is the role coaching can play today, in today's time, from the organization perspective?
So I think a couple of things. One, as I said, there's a lot of emotional support leaders need in today's difficult times. Managing their businesses, especially a lot of businesses going down the tube, kinds of challenges. And in this scenario, to be able to also manage their teams effectively, to keep their morale going, to keep them engaged, especially in virtual formats, etc. So I think one big part is emotional support. I think they need some sounding boards, and I think coaches certainly play that role very well. That's one part of it. Second, I think, as I said, that most of the businesses are undergoing sea change in the way business processes work, in the way your products are delivered, solutions are delivered, and I think this is a moment that a lot of people need to rethink their businesses, rethink their processes. And I think, as coaches, we are a little bit, I would say, because of our training and thanks to all that we've learned also as part of Grow More, I think we have learned a little bit how to use that creative skill to be able to, have clients and coaches look to new alternatives, basically help them think a little out of box. So I think that is the other second aspect, which I think, we coaches can certainly play a big role. Third, and I think the final one is that, and this a little bit depends, I think each of us bring our own skill sets to coaches. And while as coaches, we are always supposed to be non-judgmental and our experience should not matter. But we also know in the Indian organizations, when you go to coach, there are two hats which you invariably wear, the hat of a coach and the hat of a mentor.
Okay.
Try and keep yourself isolated because, the way, for example, I try and work this out is that I will give certain coaching sessions which are documented as coaching sessions and maybe extra 1 or 2 mentoring sessions.
Wow.
So the point that I'm trying to make is that sometimes people need your skills. And I think it's unfair to hold those skills back just because you are a coach. I think you just need to understand how to make sure you can exist in both the spaces without actually overlapping.
Agreed.
So I think that's the third.
Yeah, and you also need to understand that you need to be an SME. Else, I mean, you don't need to give advice on everything. I mean,
yes, exactly, absolutely,
in that space. And then if you think you're an expert, and then dedicating one separate session for something like that, yes, that's a good revelation. So long as you are clear, client is clear, sponsor is clear, everybody involved, all the stakeholders are clear. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Excellent. Okay.
And
so
also, sorry, just to build on that point, Inderjeet, sometimes what happens is even in the coaching discussions or sessions, and while we try and stay non-judgmental, we are not supposed to give suggestions, and that is why we don't. But there are a few things which strike us.
Right.
And I think, at least I try and keep a separate note somewhere of those, and those are kind of channeled back into the mentoring session, because sometimes the coachee also asks you, if you were in my place, what would you do?
Yeah.
And then you don't want to give the answer at that point in time, but you want to reserve a later moment. So
I'm glad that you mentioned this, and so that we don't give any message which is taken differently, I would like to elaborate a bit on this. So what we are saying is we are dedicating a session for mentoring. We are not doing mentoring in the same session. We need to be clear about that, because otherwise the whole effectiveness of the process is lost. Because why coaching works is because it has a merit of that we ask the question and we don't give advice, right? So, and we help the client unearth their own solutions and ideas. So it has a merit, right? And otherwise, it is lost if you start merging the two. So you don't need to don both the hats, but need to know the boundaries, need to know when to do what. That's the whole idea. Excellent.
Absolutely, Inderjeet. And I think you rightly say, and I should not also be taken wrongly in this, I think our code of ethics as coaches don't permit us to be mentors.
Excellent.
In the same engagement. And I think that is why it's important to keep these two things completely disengaged.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sandeep. It is really powerful conversation. So today I had planned off, this whole discussion today. I had tried to categorize into 3 or 4 parts, or the questions and the topics on which we'll talk about. One was from the organizational perspective, how things are. Second was from coaching skills perspective, because many of us are getting into coaching in the audience, and many of us are even coaches. But it's always a good idea to learn few tips or tricks of the trade from more experienced coaches. So I'm going to shift over to another perspective, a little bit about coaching skills, and then we'll of course go back to business generation, talking about the tips from that perspective. And so my question to all 3 of you is that most of the coaching engagements, especially when they come to the corporate space, there's some kind of a tri-party over there. There's a sponsor, there's a coachee, and there's a coach, right? And how do you manage and drive the engagement in terms of aligning the goals of the coaching with the coachee and the organization? So how do you kind of align all 3, making sure the results are there also, the coach is aligned with it, coachee is aligned with the goals, the organization is also aligned there? Sandeep.
For me, I think one is to take stock of what are the documents available in the company. And I think typically that's how the coaching engagement starts. I think there is a certain amount of clarity as far as stakeholders are concerned that what is it they want the coachee to work on.
Okay.
I think it is important to see what are the documents available within the company, which could either be a 360-degree feedback, it could be some kind of a psychometric assessment, it could be the appraisal forms, which may have the development plan stated, etc. So one is that you have information there. I think the challenge really is that how do you get the coachee to own that? A lot of times things are put on the appraisal form, or there are things on the 360-degree feedback forms, which the coachee is not willing to accept.
Okay.
And for this, the best approach to take, in my view, is to try and see if you can have a tripartite meeting where you are involved, the coachee is involved, and the stakeholders are involved.
Okay.
So that at least, because this is the most critical piece of the coaching engagement, to clarify what are the outcomes you're going to work on.
Sure. I think I fully agree with you.
Yeah. So for me, that probably is what works.
Okay. Ram, there is anything different you want to say, or are you fully aligned with Sandeep?
Yes, there's no ready solution for this. Every organization is different. More than what I feel is more than what we can do is what the organization does, or what the organization, how is this being sold within the organization? That matters a lot in terms of how the coachee is engaged. Something I have seen time and again, where if the coachee is not clear why he or she is there in that particular session, and what is it going to have, or what is the reference to their careers and roles in the organization. If that communication has not happened, they are very unclear about, okay, what do I say, or what do I talk about? What are the development areas I should be bringing forth in that session? So that is, so in spite of everything else happening, the internal communication, which most of the time we are not privy to, means we don't see what is the communication that has happened between the sponsor and the coachee. So that always remains a gray area. But from our end, I agree to what Deep is saying is ensure that you try and get as much information as possible in terms of what is this coaching engagement, what are the objectives that are being achieved. See if there are any reference documents, some assessments that have been done, which gives you some starting point for the conversation, and also seek regular feedback from the coachee and the sponsor. So if it's say a 6-session engagement, after every 2 sessions or the 3rd session, definitely seek feedback, because we don't want this to be a one-time engagement. We want this to happen again and again. And at the end of the 6 sessions, if that engagement is over, let there be a report which goes from us, which talks about very generic recommendations, not specifically, because we are abiding by the code of conduct, so we are not going to be specifically talking about what happened in the session, but some report which adds value to whatever we have done. So that ensures that there is a possibility of more business coming our way from that organization. So
So I think, Ram, you have very well said, and you have actually drifted me to the other question, but I'm going to now stay with these 2 questions. One is, how do you align the goals of coaching between the various stakeholders, coach, coachee, and the sponsor? And second is, what are the critical success factors? Like, what make the coaching successful? Like, what should coach do to ensure that there is a success which happens, every engagement we do goes successful? And I think I'll put this answer of yours more in that category where we are talking about, because I have had that experience with some organizations where the internal communication of the sponsor to the coachee wasn't really apt enough, and when we got into coaching with them, and we figured out that the coachee hadn't been briefed well, and so we had to spend some extra sessions educating them, and they had very different understanding of coaching. So to make coaching really successful, that a coach must ensure that the internal communication between the sponsor and the coachee is good, is apt, is right sized, is as per what coaching is going to deliver to them. So that makes a lot of sense, and I agree with that. So let me go over to Daya, asking the same question to her. The first one, which is, how do you align the goals of coaching between the various stakeholders?
Yeah, so I think 2 separate interventions. One is individual coaching, if we want to pitch for, and one is an organization level intervention, and where coaching becomes a part of the whole offering.
Okay.
So on an individual level, I always sign up with a pre-coaching and coaching and then post-coaching.
Okay.
So we do consider certain commercials also for that, other than the coaching hours.
Okay.
And even before that, manager and the coachee who takes the accountability of what the support is required. First is the manager identifying, then there is a ownership of that, what has to be achieved or what has to be developed as a skill or as a coaching skill with the coachee. And then they meet the coach in the
meeting or session,
pre-coach session, yeah.
Okay.
And there the entire agreement of what will be delivered as part of coaching, and then what is the success factor that we will decide also gets agreed in that meeting itself.
Wonderful.
So it gives a lot of clarity. So on an individual level, I always drive the intervention as a pre-coaching and post-coaching.
Okay.
Yeah, and the commercials are different for all 3. So it's not just the coaching hours, because we know we are taking the time of the coaches on that.
Okay.
And at an organization level, usually I use coaching as part of long-term leadership interventions. And there it takes very long. I think it takes almost 3 months to develop such an intervention. And it starts with organization objectives, business objectives. What is it that we are moving towards? How do you translate that into individual objectives, individual development plans? And what are the common things that are coming out from that?
Okay.
And then we see that for the common things, we offer group coaching. While for within that, whatever the very unique individual objectives, developmental objectives are coming, there we introduce one-on-one coaching. So we do a mix of group coaching and individual coaching as an intervention.
Okay, that's interesting. So going back to Sandeep, if you have to say something on what are the critical factors which make the coaching a success? One is, of course, selling in the right way, client being made more aware, identifying the right areas of growth for the leader in the beginning, and having a consensus amongst the various stakeholders. These are the two which have already got discussed. What else do you think is there?
I think for me, and it's very rightly worded by Marshall when he talks about courage, humility, and discipline. I think these three factors on the part of the coachee and on the part of the coach to make sure to keep reminding the coachee that he has to have the courage, humility, and discipline. Courage to be able to accept that there are things which can be improved. Humility to kind of be aware that there is somebody who outside of his expertise can still help him with these challenges.
Yeah.
Discipline of following through.
Right.
So I think that mindset on the part of the coachee, I think to me summarizes a little bit the attitude which a coachee should bring into the coaching engagement. And we as coaches need to drive that, I think, on an ongoing basis. I think the other, probably the biggest factor that I have seen that works is what do you do between the coach and the coachee? There is a space between the coach and the coachee, and that space is trust.
Okay.
How well are you able to build that space? I think that is a very important thing, because once you have the trust, I think a lot of things fall in place, because trust also means in some ways that the coachee believes that the coach has the capability and the competency to be able to help him. And probably if there's one other thing which is not specifically mentioned so far by me is awareness. I think awareness on the part of the coachee that he needs to change. And I think that is again the responsibility of the coach to ensure that the coachee realizes the need for the awareness to change. So that's some of the things I would kind of sum it up as.
Yeah, sure. So
somebody is asking, so I'll just clarify: courage, humility, and discipline.
Discipline. Yeah.
I saw in the chats.
Good. So the third is discipline. I think this is really interesting. Let me go to Ram if he has to add anything to what has been spoken till now. What are the critical factors which can make a coaching engagement a success?
I think Sandeep has covered most of it. Of course, we have to ensure that all the competencies of a coach is something that we continuously keep an eye on and keep improving on that. I think there is no substitute for that. Everything else falling in place. But if I as a coach am not ready, then there is no way that that engagement is going to be successful. So I think constantly practicing these, do a lot of self-coaching and do pro bono assignments if assignments are not coming our way, so that we continue to be in the habit of practicing. Okay. Excellent. And number two, I agree on the trust factor that Sandeep mentioned. And this is something I do, may work with others, others may want to do it, is even between sessions. Okay, I do engage with the coach. Okay, but I feel is relevant to what we are talking about. If I come across something which I feel is relevant to what we have been talking about, I send and I take permission for doing this, by the way. Saying that in the session, I take permission, saying that, are you okay if I share articles that come my way or videos that come my way, which I feel is relevant, and if the coach is okay, because I don't want to spam their mailbox with stuff which I feel is good, but they may not really want it. So I do that, and I feel that definitely I have seen that improving the trust factor, where the coachee feels, okay, this person is really interested beyond
genuinely concerned about
my growth. So that I feel, maybe to add to what Sandeep has already said.
Yeah, actually, I like to go back to Sandeep, because I remember one conversation with you, Sandeep, about what do you do in between your coaching sessions? Does that do you think does that contribute somewhere to the success of the engagement?
So I would like to build a little bit on Ram, what he was saying. And I think besides sharing the resources, what I do, and this is documented as part of my coaching engagements, are interim check-in calls.
Okay.
So I don't leave the coachee to the next session. And I'll tell you why. Not that there is any mistrust or anything, but sometimes genuinely what happens is you devise some action plans during a session. And then you realize that for some reason, the coachee is not able to implement those. And then you come back 1 month down the line and you realize that things haven't moved. And he has genuine reasons why he couldn't do it. He tried it, he couldn't do it, he couldn't find his way around, etc.
Right.
So I prefer to have sometimes even a weekly check-in call, but at least one check-in call between two sessions where I leave it to the, it's not a mandatory thing. I leave it at the option of the coach to call me up at a prefixed time, not more than 30 minutes at the most, actually mostly 15 minutes, focused only on the action points from the last session or the previous sessions. No new discussions, no new topics, only follow through.
Wonderful.
And I think also, again to Ram's point, he does it through sharing of resources. To me, I think 4 months is too long a gap. If you don't connect with the coachee in between.
4 weeks. 4 weeks, you mean, right?
4 weeks. That's what I meant.
Sure.
It's too long. And because if you don't connect with the coachee in between, you have to rebuild the trust and the, 4 weeks down the line. That's the way I look at it.
No, so also I agree with you fully there because I fully agree with you that 4 weeks is too long a period, because I have seen with my clients wherever I've let the session happen after 4 weeks, many times, leaders are traveling and sessions are not possible. It is as if you're starting the engagement again. Yeah. It's like all the gains that were there, they're lost. You have to start building again with the client, right? So I agree with you. So one good learning which I'm deducing out of this conversation is, as coaches, we need to have between the coaching sessions, check-ins with the client. We also need to ensure that we don't take a 4-week kind of a gap, try and have it 3 weeks or maybe between 3 and 4 weeks. That could also be a good learning. And as Ram pointed out in the beginning, like there is no thumb rule, there is no one rule which will fit all the clients. So different clients, different rules, but these are some generic thoughts that we are sharing. So I like to sum up what we have been speaking, and then I'll go to Daya, checking with her what is an organization wants to do the way we as external coaches do, or is there anything else that she wants to add anything to it, and sharing her experience. Now, so the question was, what are the critical factors? What can we do as coaches to make sure our coaching engagement is successful, right? So what conversations we have had, I've made some notes and I'm going to kind of sum them up is, one is that the coachee needs to have absolute clarity beforehand what coaching is and what it is not, and stuff like that. Whether the coach communicates to him, the organization communicates to him, whatever the process. As a coach, if and when I start my engagement, my client must have that awareness of what coaching is, right? Number one. Number two, we must help the client identify the meaningful areas of growth on which the coaching has to happen, right? Now, and also not only client identifies and agrees and buys into getting coached on those topics, the other stakeholders are also on the same page. They being the sponsors or the immediate supervisor, maybe HR or the supervisor. So there could be various stakeholders engaged or involved. The third thing that we spoke about is the courage, humility, and discipline, which Marshall says. And in our Grow More, we talk about commitment, patience, and courage, which are more or less similar. And obviously, if the coachee is not exhibiting those things during the engagement somewhere, coaching may not really be very successful. And as coaches, and now here is a little tip from my side. When we start an engagement, it's always a good idea to get a client, fill in a form or reply to an email, asking him on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your commitment during the engagement to exhibit commitment, patience, and courage, or CHD, like courage, humility, and discipline. And the client will invariably say 10 on 10. And then I would also check with him or her, is it okay if I find you during the whole year or 6-month long engagement, if I find you going below 10 at any point in time, do I have a right to point it out to you? So the client gives you that permission, and that becomes a very nice way to be able to bring it in. See, at the end of the day, as coaches, we have to really understand change is something which is difficult. I know I need to change, right? But I'm not able to change. For if I knew it, the way to do it, I would have done it. Then I don't need a coach, right? So because I need to change and I'm not able to do it by myself, that's why I need a coach. So we need to, as coaches, make sure that our clients change and they improve. And these are some of the tips that we need to ensure we bring in. And that's what helping the client understand what coaching is in the beginning, identifying areas of growth and getting all stakeholders on the same page, making sure the client is committing to commitment, patience, or courage, or as Marshall says, courage, humility, discipline. And then what also Sandeep spoke about was the trust. Actually, the trust starts getting built from the day one. Before you meet the client, even your reputation or your profile has gone to the client. The very fact that the organization has selected you as a coach is also somewhere, adding to that trust level over there. But then, of course, you have to build that one-on-one with the client. Then self-coaching and practice is what Ram added. And then if you are continuously coaching and self-coaching, you are also evolving as a better coach. This helps. And doing mid-session checkups with the client purely on the goals that were decided from the previous session. No new topic, no new conversation. These are some of the topics which have come up. So they are, as you have been running engagements, coaching engagements within your organizations, whether it is a group coaching or an individual coaching, is there anything you feel which we are missing here, which can be considered for success of an engagement?
I think these are all immediate things. I would, because as you rightly mentioned, Inderjeet, that this is a change, and change takes time to absorb and to implement. So usually what I see is over a period of time, even after the coaching engagement is over a period of time, what is it that the coachee is really demonstrating? And usually I observe that through the feedback from the stakeholders, from the sponsors, his immediate managers, his team. What is, if a people manager is getting coached, what is it that he brings back to the team? How differently is he now managing? How he really brings it in the practical aspect of in the day-to-day working? How he faces the challenges? When the challenges come, is he with a closed mind or an open mind? So all these observations we do pick up after 3 to 4 months of coaching engagement, and really see that whether it has really impacted. And this all can be collected through feedback. So actually the practical implications of coaching intervention, when it is more on a soft and leadership, comes in action, when you see them in action and acting different.
Thank you so much. In fact, that's what I probably missed, and Ram had mentioned about that. Mid-engagement kind of a check on how the coaching is progressing with the client, because it also gives the direction to the coach. If the client is going in the right direction, if the results are showing up, then coach can continue to follow the approach, or if there is something different, then coach needs to shift the approach. So that's another thing which can make the coaching engagement a success. Great.
Inderjeet, can I just build on Daya's point, and it will be relevant for the group of coaches. I think what Daya is saying is absolutely correct. We are not talking of change. We are talking of behavior change. We are not even talking of behavior change. We are talking of adult behavior change.
Okay.
And it is one of the most difficult things to achieve.
Right.
Change ourselves, and we are expecting to change other people. We should not really miss that point. The second quick point is that, and this I think could be a tip for a lot of coaches, while we are working on behaviors, my suggestion is that to display those behaviors in work settings, select projects which have clear ROIs.
Okay.
If you are working on somebody's people skills, select a current project which is important to the organization. Help the leader build people skills while executing that project. Because, and I'm sure Daya understands this more than any of us, I think the biggest challenge with coaching is to show the ROI.
Right.
And to me, that is a great way to show the ROI, because in your discussions, then you can also mention that this is the project where the behaviors were displayed, and this has been the outcome of that project.
So I think this conversation is interesting, and what popped up in my mind as you were talking about this, Sandeep, is that is also how the organization sees coaching. Now, in certain cases, when an organization hires a coach, they have a leader in mind, and that leader is exhibiting some behavior which needs to change, or which is not aligned with the organizational competencies or values, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a different kind of a coaching system required. Probably what they are speaking about is leadership coaching, where you are trying to help the leader become better.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong, or as it is, like it's just helping him grow further and become better. And that's where what you just said becomes all the more relevant, connecting with the live projects, helping the leader demonstrate those with the teams and those behaviors and stuff like that. Yeah. So when you are getting hired as a coach to address certain aspects of behavioral change to a leader, then the approach becomes a little different. But when it's purely developmental within the organization, then what you said becomes very relevant. Do you agree to this, Sandeep?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
One size does not fit all. Yeah.
And
Sorry,
if I
Daya,
may
please.
add, Inderjeet, to Sandeep and to your pointers, usually coaching, and I think we had even discussed while you were taking training for us, that in my performance grid, coaching usually fits in as a potential to tap, as a potential to unleash. Usually, where it's a gap, it's a mentoring. So
Okay,
that
so
is also what.
that's how you see it. But then again, I would say that depends. Like when there's a gap and you're talking about a senior leader, probably coaching would be a solution. For a little junior person or a middle level manager, maybe mentoring would help. But even to bridge a gap for senior leaders, I think coaching would be much more effective than mentoring, because these guys are leaders, they are senior, they have
Where it's not hard skill development and it just
yeah.
often the leadership,
Yes.
it's definitely coaching. But other than that, I think it's really
Hard
the
skill, yes, I agree fully. And that brings us to the last and interesting part of our conversation, which I'm sure all the coaches must be waiting for. Those are the tips for business generation. Like, what tip would you want to give to coaches who are just starting, or even who have started, so that they can become successful coaches? So in a way, business development tips. So let me again start with Sandeep.
This is a very difficult one. So I must say that I don't think that you can be a lone ranger who can survive only on coaching.
Okay.
I think coaching is a good icing on the cake. It's not the cake. And at least not in India as of now.
Okay.
So I think, you have to combine coaching with whatever other skills you have. And you need to slowly keep moving a bit in the direction of a coach before your coaching practice comes up to a certain level. I would say it'll be wrong to say that you can tomorrow start as a coach and you will start getting loads of business with whatever business development you do.
Okay.
So I think that is one point. Second, I think is that when we learn coaching, we know that our experiences don't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter whether I understand marketing or not, but I could be the coach for a marketing leader.
Right.
But the fact remains that the organizations
do not perceive it like that.
Sure. They would expect, and I think, even if the organizations understand coaching, want the comfort that the coach understands the space of the coachee.
Yeah.
So I think, when coaches try to develop their niches for business development, let them keep in mind what are their current skill sets.
Okay.
And when they pitch for business development, I think they should also ride on that experience.
Yeah, it helps build credibility also.
It helps build credibility, absolutely.
Sure.
Because, when we are starting off new, our credibility as coaches is very limited. We are not even ACCs at that point in time.
Right.
I think the other is that, don't miss opportunities to coach. I think Ram has mentioned this point multiple times. I think we need to become better coaches, first of all. And I think today for organizations, ACC is a little bit the base level. Organizations, when you're looking at engagements, they are looking at an ACC kind of a certification at the minute.
Okay.
So you need to log in the hours and move to that ACC slot as quickly as possible. So please, in the name of practice, we have this, Gromor has this excellent initiative of Gromor 100. I think, we have to use all those forums to clock in the hours that we need so as to get to an ACC level quickly.
Right.
I don't think that, and maybe the last tip that I can probably give is, which has worked for me, is that advertise your space. When I say advertise, in the sense you write on LinkedIn, you post articles, you try and communicate yourself as a thought leader, either in your expertise area or as a coach. And I think you need to continue to do that. You need to be in the face as far as people and organizations are concerned.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So Sandeep, I have got 4 points you mentioned, and these are coming straight from the people who are in the field. So the first point you mentioned was that you can't be a lone ranger in India. Yeah. And as you were saying this, suddenly something came to my mind. It's not only in India, it's all over the world, because ICF survey data. So this is saying that 94% of coach practitioners offer one or more services in addition to coaching within their professional practice, right? And it makes sense because you have more offerings on your plate when you approach a client with the same marketing effort. You could be getting business, if not for coaching, maybe training, consulting, facilitating, counseling, whatever. And it also makes sense because if you have a client for a training in the training space and they need a coach, they will rather trust you than going to a new person, right? So both go hand in hand over there. That's the first thing you said. Second thing, I think it's about building a brand, and you said that you should talk about what your area of expertise is or was till you became a coach. And there is nothing right or wrong about anything. If you have had 5 years experience, talk about it. If you have had 20 years experience, talk about it. You got to use what you have, right? And then the fourth point very much syncs with the second point. Talk about it. Tell people who you are, and not necessarily you have to speak only about coaching. Talk about what you are anyways, like your expertise, right? And that can fetch you coaching business because clients perceive you as an expert, right? Their perception of coaching could be different. And the other thing which you mentioned about was credibility, and that's important. Getting a certification is important. Same survey which ICF conducted, all the coaches felt that the number one concern was credibility, so everyone has to be credible, and organizations have increasingly started asking for coaches who are ACCs. So it helps getting an ACC credential, I would say. Cool. So let me move over to Ram. Ram, is there anything else that you would like to add in addition to
I think Sandeep covered everything. And when I had a chance to speak to Marshall in one of those encounters that we had, this is what he had to say. He said, build a brand. This is a question when I asked him. So completely agree with what Sandeep said, and what you're saying is the world out there needs to know who you are and where your expertise is, and the fact that you're a coach as well, right? So that is something that you need to keep telling through social media, through whatever means. But building a brand, I would say, is number one. Apart from something I keep saying is keep improving self in terms of how you coach, because when the opportunity arrives, you need to be good enough to take it. So
yes, and I fully agree with that. Like as you rightly pointed out, what Marshall said, most of the time what we think is I'm doing a good job, somebody will notice, and my business will grow. So that doesn't happen like that always. So it may happen organically. It will take you 10, 20 years to be there. So you got to speak about what you're doing. And that's what branding is all about. And that's what Sandeep is also saying. Whatever medium you have, whatever opportunity you have to talk, write, show to the world who you are, and not necessarily as a coach, whatever you are. And it helps you build your credibility. Yes, coach, yes, but whatever else you can talk about. Thank you so much, Ram, for that. And let me quickly check with Daya from the other side of the table. What is it that tip that you want to give external coaches? How should they approach organizations?
Yeah, so I think Sandeep very well said, and Ram said that one is demonstrating your skills. So, I would not pick up a coach by proposal, but I must have heard, seen, read about a coach. Bring out your uniqueness.
Okay.
I don't like coaches who say that I do everything. I don't like that. And I need to see that uniqueness through your demonstration, through your actions, through your the way you talk about with passion about. So I would like to choose a coach who's fit to purpose, rather than going for a general mode. So that's what helps me. That brings me a very great ROIs. That's what have been my
and if I'm interpreting it rightly, when you said demonstrating your skills, it's not necessarily like demonstrating to the potential buyer. You demonstrate by writing on the social media, posting some testimonials, getting some great reviews from your existing clients, and stuff like that, right?
Yes, sending a YouTube video, and also not all the time, it's coaching. If a coach talking about the COVID situation, even that is a great insight. It's not always to the topic, but it's always that how you contextualize your learning.
So you're telling the world who you are. You're showing them what you are, and then people can come to you.
Exactly.
I agree. But that also brings up an interesting point, which hasn't till now surfaced. And then probably I'm trying to deduce from what Daya has said, is the niche. When you said uniqueness, it's more like getting clarity on what your niche is. And I think we spoke about it in a different way earlier. Ram and Sandeep also mentioned, while you can be a coach, you can technically, from skill perspective, you can coach anybody and everybody. But if there's a niche that you want to focus on, that can also help you evolve as an expert in that space. Like Ram said, he chose to work with the business owners and middle level organizations. Now that's the clarity, right? And as you continue to work with those kind of clients, you start building your brand there, right? So getting clarity on your niche, the area, the target audience with which you want to work, your passion. So I think the niche depends on 2-3 things primarily. One is your past experience in life. 2 is what is your passion. And 3 is where do you see business opportunity for yourself? Like what kind of audience you want to address, right? So these 3 things can probably give you some clarity on your niche. And doing your 100 hours of coaching for ACC is also a great way to allow your niche to emerge on you. You don't have to force yourself into some space. Get into practice, start coaching people. If your niche is very clear to you from day one, great. If it is not, there's nothing to get bothered about that. Start coaching and you'll start knowing where you want to go, right? So that's the whole idea. So I think it's a great session. I think it's time to close the conversation. And I'm going to end the conversation by thanking all the panelists and asking them if there is anything, one-liner they want to add to close the session. Sandeep?
I think it's been fantastic. We've obviously, you made us share everything that was possibly relevant.
Okay.
I think hats off to you. And it's been great to hear Ram and Daya, and their views. And, and I think it's always fun being part of Grow More and coming back for sessions like these. It's such a vibrant community.
Excellent. And we assure you more such opportunities.
Thank you.
Okay, Ram.
Yeah, love to be part of this community. Thank you so much. And wonderful to hear Daya, Sandeep, and yourself, Inderjeet. And the one thing that I keep telling everybody is life is good. Life is good.
Yeah. Life is good.
That's much as Daya, last words from your side for today's session.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, audience. And I think demonstrating skills is what my takeaway would be. Somebody is watching.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. That's really powerful. Very well said. I think that really sums up the whole thing for us. And thank you, everybody, all the coaches, Grow More coaches being here with us. I am hopeful that you can use what we discussed today to your advantage. And thank you, all the panelists. Sure. Thanks to Garima and the entire team. See you then, guys. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Bye. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Garima.